On Friday, July 17th, 2026, roughly 1 in 3 Taco Bell customers simply did not come. Traffic across the chain fell 31% below an average Friday. The rest of fast food dropped 1.9%. Taco Bell's collapse was 16 times worse than everybody else's. In 7 trading days, its parent company burned about $4.3 billion in market value after hitting a 5-month high just days before. Here's the strange part. 3 months before that empty lane, this was the single best performing brand in American fast food. In April, Taco Bell delivered 8% same-store sales growth against a Wall Street estimate of 5.6. System sales climbed 10%. Operating profit jumped 16% to $281 million. That was 8 straight quarters of beating its own industry. The year before, 22 consecutive quarters of growth and 376 new restaurants. While Pizza Hut was shrinking so badly the company put it up for sale, Taco Bell was carrying the entire portfolio on its back. The chief executive told investors the magic formula was firing on all cylinders. So ask yourself the question the earnings deck couldn't answer. How does a company like that lose a third of its customers in a single day? The answer wasn't hiding in a spreadsheet. It had been sitting in the drive-thru for 2 years, saying it out loud. To nobody. Picture yourself pulling up to that speaker. Taco Bell had scaled artificial intelligence ordering to more than 890 restaurants across 38 states, past 2 million orders, and it kept expanding the partnership even as the complaints piled up. Then the internet found it. Someone ordered 18,000 cups of water, and the system took it seriously. Another man ordered a drink and spent a minute being asked what he'd like to drink. Taco Bell's own technology chief called the whole thing a mixed bag and admitted that sometimes it lets him down. Independent testing found employees stepping in on 21% of AI-assisted orders, and AI orders coming out less accurate than the ones a human took. McDonald's had already walked away from its own version after it started putting bacon on ice cream. Taco Bell has the fastest drive-thru in America. 257 seconds, 5 years running. They optimize for the clock. Nobody optimized for the person sitting in the car. Then there's the money. Taco Bell was never the best food. It was the cheap food, and that was the whole deal. The place you could feed 4 people on the change in your cup holder. In January 2026, the company quietly retired its under $3 Cravings Value Menu, the one it had called Permanent, and rolled out the Luxe Value Menu, 10 items from $1.99 to $2.99. Investors loved it. Executives called it a new standard for value across the industry. Customers pulled out their phones and did the math. A soft taco averaging $2.19, a bean burrito, $2.49, 3 crunchy tacos and a drink, about $9. Chips and guacamole, $3.99. Head office was measuring something called value scores. Everybody else was measuring a receipt, and none of it would have mattered if the food was safe. On the 13th of May, somebody got sick. Nobody knew why for weeks, because this particular parasite can take as long as 6 weeks to trace back to a plate. By the 16th of July, the Centers for Disease Control counted 1,644 people infected with Cyclospora who reported eating at Taco Bell. Across 5 states, 94 of them hospitalized. Michigan pulled apart 190 of those cases. 90% had eaten iceberg lettuce. Federal investigators traced it to a single supplier in Mexico. 8 days later, the outbreak covered 9 states, with nearly 2,000 reported exposures and 98 hospitalizations. Nationwide, more than 11,500 confirmed or suspected cases. The same stretch of 2025 produced 249. Understand what that actually means for the people counted in those numbers. This isn't food poisoning that passes overnight. It's cramping, nausea, exhaustion, and diarrhea that can fade and then come roaring back. Some people are still sick a month later. This is the largest outbreak of its kind on record. Here's the part that stings. Yum. Brands had already named this exact parasite as a material business risk in its own filings before anyone got sick. So had Sweetgreen. So had the largest McDonald's franchisee in Latin America. 3 companies looked at raw leafy greens, saw precisely what could go wrong, and wrote it down in a document designed for investors. The risk was known. It was disclosed carefully to shareholders and never once mentioned to the person at the window. Then came the lawsuits. Carl and Gina Hercula ate at a Taco Bell on Gratiot Avenue in Clinton Township, Michigan on the 21st of June. 2 weeks later, Gina was in an emergency room. Their attorney put it plainly. Cyclospora is not a mistake that happens in a restaurant kitchen. Whatever went wrong a long way upstream, which is why the grower and the processor got sued alongside the chain that served it. That same supplier had been tied to an E. coli outbreak in McDonald's onions 2 years earlier. Then it got messier. The FDA announced that its positive test on the supplier's lettuce was a false positive and had to walk the whole thing back. It did not clear anyone, the supply chain evidence still pointed in the same direction, but it handed the story a week of confusion. And through all of it, Taco Bell said almost nothing. One statement on the 17th of July about pulling the ingredient, and then silence. Franchisees stopped returning calls. Corporate stopped returning calls. So, what does a company do when its customers stop trusting it? It runs a sale. A $1 enchilada on July 22nd with no lettuce in it. A $1 Mexican pizza 6 days later, normally as much as $6.99, also no lettuce. Polling showed more diners saying they trusted the brand not much, or not at all. The promotion steadied the transaction count for a day. They didn't touch the reason people left. Compare that to 2006 when E. coli sickened 71 people and 8 of them developed kidney failure. Taco Bell pulled green onions from 5,800 restaurants, bought newspaper ads across the country, and put its president in front of every camera that would have him. That's what it looks like when a brand decides to own the room. 20 years later, the company went quiet and cut prices instead. Speaking of numbers that don't add up, this channel has racked up over 170 million views and still hasn't crossed 1 million subscribers. That conversion rate is worse than Taco Bell's July 17th. Hitting 1 million by the end of this year would be a dream come true, and if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed yet, you can fix that in about 2 seconds. Faster than any drive-thru in America. The analysts are split on what happens next. Some say the dip will be shallow and short, the way these things usually go, pointing at every chain that survived a scare and went right back to growing. But Bank of America's Sarah Senatore, after talking to operators on the ground, wrote that the brand's momentum had come to a sudden halt, and that franchisees who've been in the system for decades expect the pressure to last through the end of the year. A full week after the worst day, traffic was still running about 20% down. A reputation specialist put it more bluntly. Those operators now have to remind their neighbors that they aren't simply there selling dollar tacos. And for the rest of this year, competitors will run commercials about fresh ingredients you can trust, while Taco Bell can't say that right now. That's the whole lesson, and it isn't really about a parasite. Taco Bell built a machine that was extraordinary at everything it chose to measure. Speed, margin, digital mix. Same-store sales. It was so good at those numbers that it beat an entire industry, quarter after quarter, for 5.5 years straight. And the whole time, the people standing in front of that speaker box were telling it something else. That the robot didn't listen. That the value menu wasn't valuable anymore. That the one thing they trusted the brand for, cheap, fast, and fine, was quietly becoming 2 out of 3. None of it showed up on a dashboard, right up until the day it showed up all at once. You can automate an order. You can shave a second off a lane time. You can engineer a value menu and disclose the risk to your shareholders in language nobody reads. None of that is the same as talking to the person in the car. On July 17th, 1 in 3 of them didn't come back. Taco Bell knows exactly how many seconds it takes to serve a customer. It's still learning how long it takes to lose one. If you enjoyed this one, subscribe to the channel and like the video. There is a lot more coming.